All right, it's time to go game by game and pick winner and loser for every game on the Clemson Tiger football schedule. This is going to be a longer one, so let's just dive right in. First game, Labor Day night at Duke. Second year in a row, Clemson's playing on the road on Labor Day is the only game. I love it because you're not opening with Georgia that's, crazy difficult as they've done in the past, some of these really tough games. You're also not opening with Charleston Southern, so you've got some intrigue, and you're also like the only show in town on Monday night, so you get a lot of attention. I'm not going to dive as much into the Duke game because I'm going to have a separate Duke preview that's going to come out not too long after this. But just quickly to say, I think they're a good team. Riley Leonard is a good quarterback. They're not going to be a pushover, but I think a lot of their success last year is a product of the schedule, beating up on teams like Virginia. They're going to be playing Notre Dame, Clemson, Florida State instead of Kansas and some of the bottom feeders of the Coastal Division they beat up on last year. So I think, and I'll go ahead and put this up here now, I think they probably only win 7 games regular season. They won 8 in the regular season last year. I think they take a little step back despite bringing back a ton of production, going 9-4 last year. So I got the Clemson Tigers winning the opener, and then Charleston Southern. They're not a good FCS team. They were 2-8 last year, so they're bad for FCS. At least they were last year. I don't know how big of a jump they'll take this year in improving, but it's not going to be enough to make that competitive. So I got Clemson beating Charleston Southern. Florida Atlantic is a potential look-ahead game, with Florida State looming, but I don't think Florida Atlantic has the horses to really take advantage of that. They've got a new coach in Tom Herman replacing Willie Taggart. They've got a new quarterback and transfer Casey Thompson, who was previously at Texas and Nebraska, and they're in their first year in the American Athletic Conference, the AAC. So some interesting things there with the Owls, Lane Kiffin's former team, but I just don't think they have the horses to beat Clemson. So then you get to the big one, and you're talking Florida State here. Probably the toughest team Clemson will face all year, arguably, them and Notre Dame. And I think the work they did in the transfer portal is really, really good. I think the hype seems crazy, but they bring back a ton of talent, and they added more to it. They got Jaheim Bell, the tight end sort of gadget back guy from South Carolina. They got Keon Coleman, the best wide receiver on Michigan State. Now him and Johnny Wilson are a great duo. I think you can argue they're better than any Clemson receiver, although Antonio Williams could really break out. But we don't have a duo like that. It's one of the better duos in the conference. They also brought in some offensive line and defensive line help, including Jeremiah Byers. And they brought in the top, according to PFF, the number 1 cornerback in the entire ACC. They took him from Virginia, Central Cyprus. So they should be better than last year. Thing is, I think Clemson should be better by at least as much. Clemson should have a huge improvement at quarterback, at offensive coordinator. The offensive line should be a bit better. The wide receivers should be at least a little bit better. And I think the secondary, the cornerbacks especially, should be much better. So I think Clemson could take just as big, if not a bigger jump than Florida State. And they went on the road and beat them last year. Now, you look at Florida State, they won 6 in a row to close the year. They also beat up on, it was Georgia Tech, Miami, Syracuse, Louisiana, the Raging Cajuns, Florida, and Oklahoma, who, Florida and Oklahoma sound good, but, they weren't good last year. Oklahoma was 6-7 after that bowl loss. And those last 2 were close games too. Florida State lost to NC State, Wake Forest, and Clemson. So, we're talking a team, Clemson 9-0 in the ACC versus Florida State 5-3 in the ACC. Maybe that evens up a little, but they do have more ground to make up than I feel like people are acknowledging. And so maybe they close the gap even more, but I still think you got to go Clemson here. And I don't necessarily think that Clemson's, a home run here. I think Florida State's a good team. I don't think the hype is a bunch of junk, but I'm going to give this one to Clemson as well. Syracuse, they always make it tough. This is not a great spot to be facing them right after a potentially tough physical, emotional game. But when I looked at the records, Clemson, Syracuse, you have the narrative that Syracuse has Clemson's number. They played 10 times. Syracuse has won 1. The other 9, 5 of those were decided by 10 points or fewer, and 4 were by 26 or more. So this may be another one of those 10 points or fewer games. It's a tough spot on the road after a big game. But like 90% of the previous matchups, since they've been in the ACC, I think Clemson wins this one. Then you get Wake Forest. I'm not high on Wake Forest this year. They lose A.T. Perry, their star wide receiver. Donovan Green's hurt, their other top receiver. Sam Hartman is off to Notre Dame, who we'll talk about in a minute. Their defense is never good. I think Wake Forest might be off to a hot start at this point, but I think after the Clemson game, I think you see Wake Forest kind of fall apart. I have them finishing 6-6. In the far right column here in this chart, I've got my projections. I broke them all out for every game, picked every game for every team real quickly in Excel. And so I've got my official picks for every team on the schedule shown to the right. So I've got Wake Forest being 6-6, and I do not have them getting one of those wins against Clemson. Here's the toughest stretch of the year. So you get your open date, thank goodness. Then you got to go to Miami, to NC State, and then you come home to Notre Dame. Can you get through that unscathed? So the Clemson versus Miami kind of recent history is brutal. 178-30 in the past 4 contests. I don't think Miami is going to beat Clemson. They went 5-7 last year. I have them improving to 7-5. That's a decent jump. But I still have pretty significant questions of could I be much more than that? And Mario Cristobal, he brings in talent. He was very successful at Oregon. I think he can build Miami to be more than a 7-5 team, but maybe not in year 2. That's a 2-win jump. And I think that would be progress. I don't see them beating Clemson. But what I worry about here, Mario Cristobal likes tough, physical, in the mud games. They should have one of the stronger offensive lines in the conference. Did they kind of beat up on Clemson? Did they get off to a decent start, beat Texas A&M early in the season? Is this a night game? A lot of people watching. They get home at 5 in the morning, Sunday morning at 5 a.m., and they kind of lose some prep time for NC State. That's what I worry about. I think it's a win, but I worry about that. Then you get to NC State. NC State's coming off an open date. Clemson's coming off that Miami game. NC State lost Devin Leary, transferred to Kentucky, but they brought in someone who I think at the college level, I know Devin Leary, you might like him in the pros or whatever, but I think Brendan Armstrong is a guy they brought in from Virginia. He threw for 4,449 yards, not last year, but the year before at Virginia. Tony Elliott comes in, offensive coordinator Robert and I goes to Syracuse, and they tank. I mean, the offense completely tanks. He's terrible. The team's terrible. UVA really struggles, and then he transfers to NC State. NC State goes out. Tim Beck, their offensive coordinator, took the Coastal Carolina job. They go out and they get Robert and I from Syracuse. I think it might be one of those situations where their NC State fans are low-key happy that Beck left because I think they got an upgrade here. I was listening to Dave Doran on a podcast, and he said they're looking to evolve the offense. I think they're going to open it up, and they've got the quarterback to do it. They might have some holes at wide receiver. I don't know how far along they are at wide receiver, but you trust Dave Doran, what they do on the lines of scrimmage, the defense in general. And now they've got a quarterback and an offensive coordinator that are comfortable together, that threw for over 4,000 yards when they were paired up. I think that's dangerous. They're coming off an open date. Clemson is coming off a road game at Miami and is looking ahead to Notre Dame. I think this is the trickiest spot on the schedule. So if you're not picking Clemson to go undefeated, but you feel good about Florida State and Notre Dame, I think this is a potential spot where the Tigers could drop one. So that's where I have Clemson losing a game. Then it's Notre Dame at home. And maybe I'm a fool here. Maybe I should have that. If I'm putting one loss, maybe it should be Notre Dame, because Sam Hartman threw for 6 touchdowns against Clemson, and Notre Dame, that was Sam Hartman when he was on Wake Forest, and then Notre Dame when Clemson played at Notre Dame, their offense couldn't do anything, right? I think those are both, first of all, they're both on the road. This game's at home. But I think in both of those cases, it's more of a commentary on Clemson struggles last year. Their early season struggles at cornerback for the Wake Forest game. Their late season struggles with DJ passing and Brandon Streeter kind of turtling that offense up. I think it's more commentary on that than those teams. So I don't feel like Notre Dame has, their defense and Sam Hartman coming together and is going to just really be a hard time for Clemson. I think they're good. I think they go 9-3, as you see there in the right column. They have to play Southern Cal, Ohio State, Clemson. Maybe they steal one, but I would say those are their losses and the rest are the wins. So I have Clemson winning this one. And then you get in this final stretch with Georgia Tech, North Carolina, and South Carolina. Georgia Tech seems to be progressing, but I don't see them really progressing much this year. I think it's a little bit further down the line. They lost their quarterback via transfer to Nebraska. They have Pyron. They have Haynes King from Texas A&M. I don't know that they have talent yet to really be competitive in this one, even if Clemson is coming off a tough stretch. Then North Carolina, Drake May is awesome, but I don't believe in Mac Brown in North Carolina. It's a great quarterback, and I think they're wasting him. They don't have a defense. I'm not sure. They lost Josh Downs, a wide receiver, so I don't even know how many weapons they have around Drake May to really be a super elite offense. Quite like they were a year ago. I only have them going 7-5. I think they're the second best team in the state. I think NC State's better than them. Then you got to go on the road to a team that beat you last year, South Carolina. I think that was another game where cornerbacks got exposed. But I think the coaching, they just insisted on passing the ball to wide receivers when you have a struggling quarterback and a weak wide receiver core. I think having Garrett Riley in makes a huge difference. I think South Carolina's a decent team. I have them going 7-5 against an SEC schedule. But Clemson is the more talented team. I think with Garrett Riley, you see them pound the rock. If South Carolina stacks the box, they're not going to abandon it immediately. They're going to see if they can actually stop the run. And so I think Clemson's able to control the game a bit more, hit on more explosive plays, which they never did last year. And I think Clemson gets revenge, finishes 11-1, goes to the ACC championship. Likely a really tough rematch with with Florida State. And then after that, I think the winner of that is probably going to the playoff. Quickly, I'll just say my early playoff picks would be Georgia. I don't know how you can pick against them. I think Michigan and Ohio State are probably back. And so you're looking at the one other spot that's not a repeat. And I think that could be Clemson. So, depending on how the ACC championship game goes, probably the ACC championship winner has a really good shot of going. Southern Cal's another team that has a shot. But right now, I would say 11-1, win that ACC championship game, you're in the playoff. So those are my Clemson football picks. I hope you enjoyed. Tell me what I did wrong. Tell me what I missed in the comments below. And of course, if you have not already, please subscribe to this channel. It really helps it grow. And I would really appreciate it. If you are subscribed to this channel already, thank you. I appreciate it. Please like this video to help it get out to more people. Thanks again for watching. Go Tigers.